But you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers, folks, with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. It's Freewheeling Friday. Sorry about the little bit of a late start. One of the channels was giving a hard time. You may hear a lot of noise today. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. There's a lot of construction going on, so if you hear all sorts of banging and whacking noises, that is what it is. All right, so growing is good. Growing is good. All right, so today I thought we'd go back in time a little bit because I feel like we go through this every election cycle. And I'm going to give a broad view of what I think the Senate map looks like this time, because I said something yesterday on Benny, which was that if you have to look at the fundamentals of it all, right, even with the Republican +2 and the generic ballot, Rasmussen's tightened to +4 today. Trafalgar still has +5. I really don't care what many other people have. Marist College went from 6 or 8 to Republican +4 or something like that, which is an actual tightening to Republicans. Marist is always going to overstate Democratic support, especially as we get closer to the election, because Marist does not wait properly for region, nor do they wait at all for education most of the time. And if you don't get region correctly, you will have to wait for education. And what people aren't understanding is that that represents an actual tightening. All right. So at this point in 2018, somebody like Marist had Democrats up by 12, overstating their overall lead by about 4. So if that's true, then what we're really looking at is not even really close to the Republican +2 that we got. Listen, in 2020, Republicans, let's start with the House. First, they were expected because of the vote lead, the House vote lead that Democrats had on the generic ballot, which was about 7 points, close to 7 points. Everyone expected Democrats to at least gain about 15 seats. In the narrative, that's what Cook Political Report, all the election forecasters, the 5 turd fakes, they all expected generally a Democrat pickup of about 15. And what really happened is that Democrats only won the House vote by 3 points, and they wound up losing about 15 seats on net. All right. And that was an overstatement of Democrat support by a little bit over half, depending on which average you're looking, or a little bit over double, I should say, really. That's the history, as I wrote in the column on Locals earlier this week. All right. So when I go on and I said that Republicans, you got to say, are still favored not only to take the House, but have a better chance than not to take control of the Senate. When we're looking at the map and we're looking at not just, the totality of polling, of course, but, the pollsters that seem to get it right every year, it does still look like Republicans are favored to do that. In my own polling with Pennsylvania, I thought would probably be one of those races that would disappoint. I'm back to now Pennsylvania being a toss-up. All right. Why? Because, again, Fetterman, as well as Shapiro in the gubernatorial election, are about maxed out, and that's it. Well, Rich, Ron Johnson is trailing. Ron Johnson always trails. All right. Wisconsin is one of the hardest states or battleground states to poll. And that is true for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to tell you. But Ron Johnson last time was one of the senators that everybody expected to lose to Russ Feingold. All right. Pennsylvania will go well, by the way. But Ron Johnson, with the exception of a single poll, which was earlier in Loraz College, Ron Johnson was down with everybody. Even the so-called Marquette Gold Standard routinely published polls that were, him down by 10 points or more to Russ Feingold. In the end, Ron Johnson won. He won pretty easily, and he was the first incumbent Republican senator in a battleground state to be called on election night. It was fairly quick. All right, so let's take a look at some of this. Let's make it bigger so you guys can see. You will see even that Loras College, who had Ron Johnson up in October by 5 points, eventually mirrored the results of other pollsters and had him down by 2. All right. The poll average is a bit of a joke here with this one. We all know what the poll averages really would have looked like at that time. This is I do like RCP, and I like RCP and I like Wikipedia, because then you can see the totality of it. When you're looking, even RCP is the same, but you don't see the averages. If you go to Wikipedia, you can see a laundry list. But on Real Clear Politics' average, you can see that Ron Johnson was very, very favored to win that race. In the end, he did not. All right. I mean, it was favored to lose it, and in the end, he did not. All right. So look at some of these polls here, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm actually looking to switch right now to RCP so you can see it better than this. I didn't realize this shows you a lot, yes, but it doesn't really show you the scope of how bad they had him down. All right. And Russ Feingold, if you guys remember, everybody knew Russ Feingold. He was a well-known name, right? Let's go back even further. Let's go to Real Clear Politics. Let's pop that one up, and you'll see. It is a hard state poll. There are a couple of reasons, but the very first one is that Wisconsin is not like the other battleground states in the Midwest. Wisconsin is about 2/3 rural. 2/3 of it almost look more like Iowa than Pennsylvania or Michigan or even Ohio. And those people keep their vote preferences very tight to the vest. If you remember in 2016, 2020, during the public polling project, everyone was dying for Wisconsin to be done. And I kept telling everybody, give it time, give it time, give it time. We're not there yet. Give it time. We wanted a poll done in 2 days. Really, it took almost, about 3.5 fielding days to be able to get all of those results that we needed from Wisconsin, because especially in the Northwest, you're looking at Douglas, Bay, and the counties to the south, right? Polk, all of these areas, all the way down to Rusk. In fact, straight shot down the state. They are difficult to field. And someone like Marquette, who uses their data collection method that they do, in 2018, they began to show what we do, which is, where did we speak to these people? Let's see a map of Wisconsin so we can see how many responses we gathered from all of these different areas of the state. And you could very clearly see that their working class consisted of people who were in suburbs of Milwaukee and outside of Green Bay. And that's great and everything. Those people are going to have a voice, but they don't represent the entirety of the working class population in the state of Wisconsin. It is a difficult state to poll. You'll get all those high interest people. You'll get 600, 800 responses, and you'll think, I'm good. I got enough. But you don't. And when you do reach people in those other areas, you're going to get those people who want to participate in polls, and you'll get them first. So if you don't oversample them, then it may look like Democrats' margin in rural Wisconsin is really not that bad. That's why, folks, when we see these polls pre-election day, you always look through area type, and it even happens to us in national polling sometimes. Not so much in state, but in national. It looks like Republicans are going to win the rural vote by like 20 points, something like that. Maybe it's like 55-35. But then come election day, the margins in rural, parts of Wisconsin, 70+% for Republicans. That's what's going on there. Republican support in rural America is always understated in the polls. Always. All right. So if you look at, let's bring up RCP here. There we go. If you look at RCP, you can see Feingold was up 10 points in Emerson, who eventually herded to Feingold +8. But think about the narrative as we're going. Monmouth, one of all the fake forecasters' favorite polls to cite. Feingold +8. Eventually, RCP dropped a lot of these polls out of the average because they dated all the way back to October 18th. But what did this do to Ron Johnson's narrative the entire election season? You remember, if you're old enough to remember, like I am, Mitch McConnell was doing what Mitch McConnell has always been doing, pulling the fire alarm and running around with his hands in the air like a little girl, telling everybody to save themselves while he steps on little children running for the door. Abandon Donald Trump. Save yourself. In the end, of course, Donald Trump's coalition is why Johnson got 3.4%. Even Walker in 18 wasn't going to cobble together this coalition, even if he was to hold on. And by the way, what did the polls say about Walker? That he was going to lose by less than a point? Nope. It isn't. At the very final week, you see some of them like Marquette, who, by the way, what did they have before? Dating back early in the cycle, a Feingold +3, which is crazy if you already published a Feingold +16. With Russ Feingold at 54% and Ron Johnson at 38%. 54%. In polling, folks, when someone gets significantly above 50%, public opinion simply doesn't move like that. It means there is a certainty that that person is going to win. Even when they didn't. Feingold +13. Feingold at 50. Feingold +12. Feingold at 49. Feingold +10. Feingold +9. 51-42. This is the summer. This is your summer polling. Feingold +13. 50-37. You're going into the summer. Another one here by Monmouth at the end, roughly where we are right now. Feingold +13. 54-41. Did it get any better as we moved into September and the fall? Nope. Emerson, 52-42. Feingold +10. Almost heading toward the end of September. What about, maybe that was just Emerson and they were an outlier. Nope. Gravis, first week of October. Feingold +12. Then Luraz College drops this at the same time as Gravis. Feingold +5. They're mocked and ridiculed. Trust me, I remember. Mocked and ridiculed. Then others started to say, you know what, though, maybe it is a little bit closer. And you saw YouGov, you saw Marquette, all heard, but still giving the lead. WPR drops this ridiculous Feingold +12 in the middle of October. Then Monmouth drops their Feingold +8. Heading towards the end of October, it's radio silence until finally, Emerson comes back and says, all right, maybe it's not 10 like our last poll, but it is +5. And Feingold is, pretty much favored to win. By the way, did we tell you Donald Trump's going to lose? You get my picture here? Let's take a look at Pennsylvania. Oh, there it is. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Oh, that's CNN. Oh, love of God. Those are exit polls. Geez, save us. Spare us. Where are you here? No, it's RCP. I know it is. RCP 2016, Pennsylvania. Polls. Senate. Bear with me while I get this up. There we go. All right. McGinty +6. Let's look at them all. Let's go to all of them. Earlier on, before Trump, very, like the prior year when Toomey was just an incumbent, Toomey had some pretty big leads. Nobody really knew about Mercyhurst College and their polling apparatus, so they ignored it. But then others like Quinnipiac came out and, suggesting that Toomey had a pretty nice lead. McGinty was generally a nobody. But then as we got closer until the cycle, into the season, McGinty started to take a lead. Man, the fire's going, raging. Donald Trump's going to lose. All this is happening. Run for the hills. McGinty starts to take the lead. Toomey, even in polls where he's leading. Morning Call, Mercyhurst, which once had him up by 10 or 13, now has him only up by 1 point. Quinnipiac, who once had him up by 10, now only has Toomey up by 1. Going into September, he loses the lead. A few here and there came out, gave him small, within the sampling error leads. But for the rest of the time, headed into the final stretch, McGinty was ahead. Anywhere ranging from a 1 from Quinnipiac to a 12-point lead by Franklin and Marshall, who is supposed to be the gold standard, like Marquette is the gold standard in Wisconsin. Franklin and Marshall is supposed to be the credible poll in Pennsylvania. In the end, Morning Call does drop a Toomey +1. Again, for the most part, everyone thinks that's nonsense. The Franklin and Marshall poll is dropped out of the Real Clear Politics average, which, is good for Toomey, but it was toward the end. It's in the narrative, guys. It's in the narrative. By the time the election was coming, and by the way, now people would be voting right now. See, that's the difference between 2016 and 2020. Before COVID, when, Democrats basically seized control of the elections without the legislature approving any of these changes, Pennsylvania, Michigan, even Wisconsin, they didn't do early voting and definitely did not do widespread mail-in voting. That did not happen. Democrats had tried to do it several times by using the democratic process, and they failed because people in these states never warmed up to early voting or mass mail-in voting. It was limited to states like Florida, Minnesota, and Arizona. And even in Minnesota, by the way, that happened actually later. But in 2016, it's just part of the narrative, and it's discouraging people from even wanting to vote, right? Now, you get a Franklin and Marshall, McGinty +12, or in this case, Fetterman +12. And these people are voting already, ladies and gentlemen. McGinty +12, 5, 1, 3, 6, 2. Harper, who is a Republican polling firm, remember them because we're going to come back to them in another example, ridiculed when they put out the Toomey McGinty tie poll. Ridiculed. Then Morning Call, a day later, drops a Toomey +1, even though he's at 43%. So after all of these, including polls showing McGinty at 50+%, it really wasn't going to change the narrative. What happened? Toomey won. Donald Trump dragged his, over the finish line. Because again, without Donald Trump's coalition, they would never have gotten 1.6 or 3.4. So they better hope they get their head out of the sand with this nonsense that Trump is going to hurt them on the campaign trail. He saved them in 16, saved their majority in 18. And by the way, without Georgia, he saved that too. That was on Mitch McConnell. That was on David Perdue. And unless you were there, you don't know what you're talking about. These ideas that Trump discouraged people from voting. No, they were pissed. David Perdue and everyone else sat on their hands until the final week and then decided they were going to get on board. You know what? I think the president's on to something here. Voters aren't dumb. Contrary to popular belief in the media, they're certainly not dumb on the Republican side. They know a screw job when they see it. And 300,000+ of them decided, I'm not voting for either one of them. Independents? Having insider trading ethics violations hanging over your head and then hiding from debates doesn't go over well with independents. Neither does not giving them a stimulus check when you decide that their businesses can't operate at full capacity yet. They lost those 2 Senate seats in Georgia. And I'm one of, I think, only 2 to pull that race correctly. I think my opinion carries a little bit of weight here. Let's go back to a midterm election. Okay. There's another one. Ted Budd. Okay. He's tied, or maybe even Beasley. A PAC poll puts out, Beasley +2 or something. 2014 RCP, North Carolina Senate. Let's check this out. Yeah, let's go with Hagan. Where's the Kay Hagan versus Tom Tillis? Brandon Hagan Tillis. Where is it? No, that's the Senate. Here we go. Let's take a look at this, shall we? Again, Harper, the only one, mocked and ridiculed. I remember we had the election projection model back then. Only one to put out a Tillis +3. Tom Tillis never led in the typical loved media and university polls. Rasmussen had him up, but Hagan had 11-point leads, 15-point leads. You ever see Tom Tillis +15? Nope. American Insights, which was supposed to be a Republican polling firm, Hagan +10. right? Survey USA, Hagen up, Hagen up, Hagen up, Hagen up. CNN, Civitas, another Republican polling firm, by the way, Hagen +7, NBC Marist, Hagen +4, and on and on and on and on. Elon University, which was one of the only university polls to give Tillis a lead, then mirrored, whatever you want to call it, to a Hagen +4. Tom Tillis was down in the average because RCP dropped out some of those other ones, and Tom Tillis won. What about 2020? Did they do any better in North Carolina in 2020? Let's see, shall we? Let's get our, oh God, no, we will not be using them. RCP, thank you. And that's what I'm talking about. Not a whole lot I can do about that. Hold on. Muting it until that's over. All right, we're back now that that's over. Let's look at all those polls, shall we? Going into the summer, Tillis loses his very tiny lead. Polls had him between 1 and 4. That was it. The Civitas Harper poll, again, was, again, one of those outliers. They even started to get a smaller lead for Tillis. Tillis +2. Then Cunningham starts to take a lead. He gets a 7-point lead with Emerson early when everybody else is like, what? Right? Cunningham +5. NBC News, Marist, right? All this going on. CNBC, Change Research, Cunningham +10 going into the summer. CNBC, Change Research, Cunningham +12, even in the middle, dead in the middle of the summer, at the end of August, right? When everyone's having a friggin' panic attack just a couple of weeks ago. CNBC, Cunningham +10. East Carolina University, Cunningham +4. CBS YouGov, Cunningham +9. Fox News, Cunningham +6. Survey USA going into September, Cunningham +7. New York Times, they did a great job that last year, didn't they? Cunningham +5. Emerson, Cunningham +6. Even Harper, who once had a lead for Tillis, Cunningham +6. CBS News, YouGov, Cunningham +10. Going into October, at the end of September. East Carolina drops a single, Tillis +1. It's like a fart in a crowd. Nobody hears it. Monmouth University, Cunningham +5. Another Survey USA, local poll by Survey USA, Cunningham +10. CNBC jumps in again, Cunningham +6 in the middle of October. CBS News, they echo that, Cunningham +6. Trafalgar drops a Tillis +2, and Robert is mocked mercilessly. NBC News counters, Cunningham +10. Cunningham +10. Even when others, like Survey USA, who once had ridiculous leads, did show a tightening, they drop a Cunningham +10. And by the way, this is the pollster I just mentioned earlier in the open about generic ballot polling. They had Republicans down by 8. Now they have them, or something like that, 6 or 8, I think. The Democrat +4 is the smallest lead for Democrats Marist has had the entire year. Even when others had Republicans +5 to 12, Marist was dropping Democrat +8s. Here they are in late October, a few days before the election. Cunningham +10. You have got to be kidding me. But that is what happens. When you have a data collection mode that skews metro, you do not have good representation across all area types, and you don't wait for education. You might get a Cunningham +10 and a Biden +8. Trump won this state. Tillis won this state. RCP made the correct decision to drop Marist out of the average, even though they were done October 28th. Why? Because there were clearly a round of other polls. They were hedging. Let me tell you a little secret, and Laura can back this up. Every Democratic strategist in the state of North Carolina in 2020 knew that Cunningham, if he had a lead, no longer had it anymore. 3 days before the election, 3 days before the election, a Democrat strategist in Pitt County told me, damn, we blew this one. If we had a chance to win it, we don't now. Does that reflect the public polling? Why was he so bearish on Cunningham's chances? And Cunningham leads. You didn't see the Marist poll a day ago? He has a supposed 10-point lead. What are you so upset about? They were carpet bombing the airwaves against Tillis. Tillis is a crook. He takes big pharma money. He wanted to cancel your medical insurance, your health insurance. He wanted to remove protections for pre-existing conditions. He's a fanatic Trump supporter, which of course was never true. Tillis never liked Donald Trump. He only, of course, begged Trump during this election to get him over the finish line. Without Donald Trump on the ballot, Tom Tillis could have lost. Not by 10 points. Pollsters haven't called North Carolina correctly. Are you ready for this? In going on 10 election cycles. 10 years, excuse me. 10 years. It's been that long since they called races correctly in North Carolina. For 10 years in the Tar Heel state, they have missed. So, if Ted Budd has a small lead right now, where do you think Ted Budd really is? Let me ask you that. Because I'll tell you right now, nobody expects Ted Budd to lose this race. In fact, somebody about 2 weeks ago told me it's Ted Budd by 5 or more. It's Ted Budd by 5 or more. Beasley has no chance. So when I say I'm bullish on these Senate races for Republicans, maybe you can see why. In Georgia, where everyone was having a freaking heart attack just recently, this just came out. Let's take a look. Ooh, you scooted on me. Stop scooting around. Fox 5, insider advantage, with the exception of the Republican primary, one of the more accurate polls in the state of Georgia. Walker up by 3. Emerson's got Walker up by 2. Trafalgar's got Walker up by 1. Fox News sucks. So who cares what Fox... No, truth, Laura. Fox News blows. So who cares what Fox News says? All right. You know what? While we're doing this banging stuff and on and on and on, we have this up here. You know, it's about that. I'm trying to give you guys context here. I'm trying to give you guys, historical context. That's what it is. And I'm not done yet either. It's just time to take a real quick break. Believe me, I am not done. Because this has been going on now for years, and everybody does the same thing every time. It's a little bit maddening. We'll come back and we'll look at Georgia after this real quick break, all right? First, we got to do a word from our sponsors, folks. Look, Laura and I absolutely love this company. Love this company, which is why we chose to do this. And because we sincerely think you need to think long and hard about this, folks. Food shortages could be coming even in the U.S. Real thing. Drought, inflation, and even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important than ever. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriot survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food. Hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the U.S. of A. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack easily. They're also light-resistant. Light pollution is bad for this kind of food. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunch, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And by the way, I'm usually going on about the stew, but I got to tell you the mac and cheese, banging. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP for the People's Pundit. 4patriots.com/TPP to get your 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after you order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Folks, go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpiles today. All right. 12:33 already. God, the time moves quick. I mean, and I will get to that. I think it was John. Yeah. John, I'm going to get to your video. We're going to run it. I just want to do this first because it's relevant to what you're talking about. All right. He had asked me on Wednesday if I could address something, and I couldn't. And by the way, that's why we didn't get that live stream yesterday. There's a lot going on here, and it just was not. I barely got a connection with Benny. Did you guys see how horrible that connection was? We got to get this mess system going, for real.
I'm looking for my cord. I can't find it.
It's the charger cord. No, it's here. I pulled it out of the block that you took from me.
Where is it?
Hold on one second, guys. You're welcome. All right, so let's get back to crappy polls. All right, let's get back to Georgia. All right, add to the stream. We probably will do Georgia again, by the way. All right. I'm thinking that we should do Georgia again. All right. Anyway, even Fox 5, Insider Advantage, had Warnock up by 3. Fox News, Warnock by 4. Survey USA. Does anyone seriously believe Warnock are led by 9 or 10 points? Quinnipiac and Survey USA. And by the way, I went through the internals of that Quinnipiac poll. You can't be winning in the state of Georgia. You cannot be winning the white vote by 2/3, double-digit support among black voters, winning white working class and white voters with a college degree, and be down. Because you're only going to lose the post-grads. They must have weighted the black vote like 10 points higher than it ever has been ever. It's not possible. Nobody's winning the state of Georgia by 9 or 10 points. It's not happening. 3-6. Even Purdue, who beat Michelle Nunn like a drum in 14, he only won it by about 7. By the way, polls in the summer had Michelle Nunn over Purdue. Go look it up. It's totally believable. Her father was super popular here. As if that was still her father's Democratic Party or something. You might as well say, yeah, Jimmy Carter once carried it. Give me a break. Why is this so significant, though? It's significant because you can even see here the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is one of the most liberal-leaning polls you will ever see in the state of Georgia. It blows, okay? Even they had Walker up by 3. And then the spending hit and Walker stumbled, But, I mean, I can agree. I can see a Warnock plus 3 by Fabrizio and Anzalone. I can see a Warnock plus 3 by Fox 5. Fox News, even if they're close to the others, I just ignore them. They're so bad. Ask Senator Joe Donnelly how accurate Fox News polling is. That poor SOB really thought he was up by 7 points. And then he got drummed by Mike Braun, who should be thanking Donald Trump. Claire McCaskill. Ask Senator Claire McCaskill how accurate Fox News is. Fox seriously, along with CNN, they seriously gave the impression that Tennessee with Marshall Blackburn against Benson was a close race. Again, great instance, a very popular governor, Democratic governor. He's got a different brand. No, there is no different brand. There's one brand, which is why Doug Jones is no longer senator of Alabama, which is why Joe Manchin would get stomped right now if he was up for election. Good news for Joe Manchin is he has no intention of running for election again in the U.S. Senate, and in fact may want his old job back as the governor of West Virginia. Breaking news. Unfortunately for him, that will never happen after what he's done. He really is done this time. His strength as a moderate Democrat is gone. Even in 18, we never had him down. We just did. He always had a very small lead. 2-7, 2-7. Anyway, after $20 million, Walker retakes the lead before the summer's even over, by the end of August. So they have this Fox News poll still in the average. Otherwise, do the math yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Walker would actually be up by 2 flat if Fox News was not still in the average. And frankly, Fox News is from July. They should be out of the average. Data for Progress. A liberal polling firm have Walker up by 2. And so, look, if Warnock, an incumbent, is at, say, 55% in the middle of the 40s, that's because, by the way, of the Fox News poll. Otherwise, he would not be at 45%. He'd be at 44.6, something like that, ballpark. Somebody do that? You want to do that? If he wasn't there, then that means he's nowhere near 47, 48. He's not looking to touch 50 anytime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens to incumbents who are polling below 50 and are trailing typically? They lose. They lose. And Walker really should be ballpark at 47, not 45.8. And I'm saying that because, look, the Fox News poll has him at 42. That's weighing him down in the RCP average. If this continues, one more poll, I imagine RCP will drop Fox from the average. So expect some ridiculous Warnock +8 coming out from like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution or Quinnipiac, all right? Or maybe Survey USA. Expect that. Expect, because it's coming. This is how they keep the narrative the way they want to keep it. No one is going to allow Walker to take a big lead in the RCP average. But after $20 million, a summer of stumbles, you haven't put away Herschel Walker, and football season's coming, you're done. You're done. Herschel Walker is going to win the state of Georgia. If you think I'm joking when I say that football is coming, which will create this new image of Herschel and this new renewed interest around his campaign and this increased support for his campaign, if you don't think that's coming, you don't understand the state of Georgia. You don't know what the football culture has on these voters. Herschel Walker is odds-on favorite at this point to win this race. The idea that anybody would have moved throughout the summer, this race from leans Republican all the way to leans Democrat, skip right over toss-up. Because of what? Crappy summer polling? Shame on you. And in fact, one of them did that after sending out an email update saying that we all know about the summer response bias problem with Republicans in Senate polls. Herschel Walker still obviously favored to win this race. A day after that email went out, they moved it to leans Warnock. It's unreal. Warnock is finished. I hate at this point, unless something changes, unless Walker makes another mistake, which is like a real mistake that has legs, the abortion, they are, oh, Rich, abortion. They already beat him over the head with the abortion attacks. They've been doing it for, since even before the decision with Dobbs came down. It hasn't worked. It has not worked. By the way, we had Walker up, right, by 2. He's consistently led between 2 and 6 in our polling. If we would have polled in Georgia, maybe we would have gotten like a Warnock +2. But the overall trend showed that people really just liked Walker. He was doing so much better in the burbs than Purdue and Loeffler did. And in fact, we can show that. Let's see. There was 2 of them. Let's go through a little bit of this. Let me go to CD. I'm gonna have to go to CD to do this. We are going to come back to more polling. Just wait. Bear with me, okay? We're going to come back to this. Let's go to creative destruction because we did 2 for them, correct? And we did 1 for locals, which did find a closer race. The locals one was a closer race than, there it is. This was right before the summer. And I believe we did showcase region. I hope so. Let's see. Oh, for the love of God. Come on, man. Really? It's not linked at all. Oh, here we go. Cool. Gotta do something with this page here, which they have been asking me to do, and I got to. Here we go. Let's take a peek at what we saw before Walker stumbled. Okay. Herschel Walker still leads Raphael Warnock for the U.S. Senate in Georgia. And I mean, still, they said still in the title. Why? Because this was the second one we did. All right. This was the bigger lead that I believe he was like at 2, or maybe it wasn't narrow. It was narrower than the 5 point. It wasn't 6. It was a 5 point that we found for Walker in September. All right. The CD Media Big Data poll in Georgia finds Republican challenger Herschel Walker leads incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock 45.7 with 46. To 42.8 or 43. That's a slightly narrower margin than the 5-point lead that the poll found for Walker in September. This is by area. The light pink here, and by the way, let me just teach you guys how to read this, because some people don't understand it and they send nasty comments about, why do you bet your column? Think of it as a column, all right? You're looking left to right. Don't do that. Up and down, up and down. All right? The darker the margin for either color, the darker the color for either area or category, whatever it may be. Now it's area, but it could be education like it is in Pennsylvania. The darker the color, the bigger the lead. So, for instance, in urban Georgia, obviously, that's an enormous lead. It's a 40-point lead Raphael Warnock has. That's a dark blue. Just like in rural Georgia, where Herschel Walker is leading by a huge margin, that's dark red. In the burbs, it's light red, but it's still, nevertheless, a 3-point lead. All right. By the way, both in Pennsylvania and in Georgia, go look at the exit polls. The talk about suburban vote was overblown. It was meant to hit women with a social desirability bias. Like, well, come on, educated women in the suburb don't vote for Donald Trump. That was their voter. That was the problem they had in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, when Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump. Those women, in fact, did vote for Donald Trump in much bigger numbers than they thought, or the polling suggested. Go and compare Trump's performance in the Atlanta metro area to, let's say, Purdue. He outperformed David Perdue in the Atlanta metro area. Purdue thought, and so did McConnell's team, they all believed that if Donald Trump just wasn't on the ballot in this runoff, we're going to do fine. Because if Trump wasn't on this ballot, then Purdue would have done better in the suburbs. That's not what happened. Purdue weakened in the suburbs moving into the runoff, and he underperformed Donald Trump in the Atlanta metro area. Go look it up. Anyway, overall lead was also pink because that's the margin. Typically we'll do, it really depends, but typically we'll do like 0 to 10. Could either be light or the middle ground color. Anything that's 20 or plus is going to be darker. All right. So in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, the former football star holds a commanding lead, 58.6. That was the primary, and he did, in fact, win it overwhelmingly, right? But the bottom line is that Walker, here's what I'm looking for. Here it is. Walker has consistently led in the suburbs statewide, and that bodes well for his chances among undecided voters in the suburbs outside of Atlanta. And the point of that was to follow up what I said here, which is, while the race tightens somewhat, the fundamentals still suggest Walker will be the favorite in November. Fundraising, be damned. The fundraising disparity in Georgia is enormous. Warnock has raised an ungodly amount of money, and he has spent it. And if that amount of money, while Walker doesn't barely have enough money to... Listen, it's true. He's not on the air, barely covering the cost of the tour bus. If Warnock has not been able to put him away by now, he's not going to put him away. Not unless Walker does something really makes a mistake. Another mistake. I don't know how many more mistakes. He's made quite a few. Let's be honest. He has made quite a few, and he is back in the lead. He's still leading. He had an early lead. He lost it in the summer. Oh, imagine what that is. Can't imagine. Do you guys know what it is? And now he's retaken it again before the summer even ended. Despite how much money Warnock spent in the last 4 months. 3-4 months. Well, that's it. Independent and third-party voters, we're going for Walker, 42.5 to 34.4. And then we can, I don't know if I should bring that. Give me 1 second. Even in the poll, that was closer because it did narrow even more when I did the locals poll. Let me log in first, and then I don't want you guys to, no. I don't want you guys to see my password, right? There's always somebody watching who I no doubt is dying to hack. All right, Laura? Here was a tightening of the likely voter screen. Let's take a look at that, shall we? Close. Oh, it is closed. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And let's pull up the locals, the poll we did for locals. Take a look at that as well, which was not long after we did that one, by the way. And here you have it. There was a primary vote. This was Walker 47, Warnock 42. By area, and by the way, look, Walker was double digits among black voters, just touching double digits, and he was doing exactly what a Republican needs to do in order to win the state of Georgia, which is win 2/3 of the white vote. The Quinnipiac poll was nuts. It was crazy. Look at the gender gap with men. Holy moly. While Warnock was only leading, barely leading with women. By area, let's bring up Senate vote preference. By area, by the way, that Insider Advantage poll has Kemp up at like 5, I think, 5 or 6, something like that. Walker's not doing great in urban, but still not, 30% is respectable, for Republican in urban areas. So the suburbs were basically tied, which was close, but rural votes were huge for Walker. Huge. Go to region, which I found to be extremely interesting. Walker actually had a slight lead in the Atlanta suburbs. Now, in Atlanta Metro, he was getting killed. But in the Atlanta suburbs, he had a slight lead. In the north, he was doing very well, 56 to 32, which is about what David Perdue did. But David Perdue did not do that well in the Atlanta suburbs. That's number one. And he did not get these voters out right here who absolutely are going to vote this time for Herschel Walker. So Perdue's lead wasn't as big, but it also... The central part of the state was not as much of the vote as it typically is. And that's a problem. All right. That is how, oh, God, I'm over here looking at this. I'm not showing you guys. Here it is. All right. And then the coastal South, 50 to 37. That's a very good performance for a Republican. And again, you got to get them out. They went out for Donald. They liked Donald Trump. They got out for Donald Trump. But they did not get out for Perdue and Loeffler. All right. I hope some of this puts this all in perspective. Let me see if I can pull up John's question here, because we're going to play a video and then I'm going to give you my take on it, because John had asked that question okay, here we go. Let me bring in the audio. John, I'm there for you, brother. Give me a second. I would like to actually play it for everybody, okay? It's a good question. And it goes with what we're talking about right now. Dovetails with it right now. And I'll just be honest. I actually tend to agree with a lot of what he's saying. It's Andrew Clapp, if I'm saying that name correctly. Right? Not showing anything personal here, right? I don't think so. All right, audio should be good. You should be able to hear it.
This is going to make some people a little angry, but before you write me angry letters, I want you to think about it. I want you to think about what I'm actually saying. There's a question now about whether the red wave that we were hoping for, this landslide for Republicans and in the midterms, is going to happen or not. So I contacted my friend Henry Olsen, and I've had him on the show, and people get angry because he doesn't always say things that they want to hear because he is completely governed by the numbers. His integrity about this, I've read him up for years, and his integrity on this is just undeniable, and he's right more often than anybody else. Everybody's wrong sometimes, and nobody knows the future, but Henry is right more often than anybody else. So I said to him, what do you think? Is the red wave receding? And he wrote, this is what he wrote to me. He says, it's clear that Democrats are now energized. This is primarily why Biden's job approval has risen by nearly 5 points in a month. He remains, however, 1 point below the job approval rating on the day of the November 2021 elections that saw a big GOP win. State polls have tended to overstate Democrats' strength in recent years, especially in the Midwest and Florida. The more important number to look at is the level of support for the Democrat candidates. In almost every case, it remains below 50%. Most 70 to 80% of undecided voters disapprove of Biden. The biggest number of undecided voters are among those who only somewhat disapprove of him. Historically, these voters oppose the president's party and its candidates by 20 to 38 points. The polls do not show that now, in part because of the high undecided share. This is the battleground. Red wave looks less likely than I thought in June. I'd still be surprised if the GOP holds under 230 House seats after the election, and I think 240 is still reasonable, which is a hefty majority. He says, I give the GOP a 55% chance of a Senate majority, which is all good news coming from Henry because he's just a lot more accurate than anybody else. This is going to make some people a little angry.
Okay, so let me start here with saying that I actually do agree quite a bit with that assessment by Henry Olsen. However, I am just not spooked by public polling the way that apparently he and others are spooked. The fact is, I've seen this movie a lot. I know the ending. And at this point, most of you should as well. It is a first-term incumbent midterm. I want to talk for a second about those undecideds he was discussing. You saw them in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you pulled that right out from our poll or what, but you saw that in the Pennsylvania polling. You saw it in the polling we did for Arizona. These voters in Pennsylvania strongly disapprove of the job that Joe Biden is doing. Is this going to be the first election ever where those voters break for the Democrat or the party in the White House? That would be a first. That would be literally a first, because that has never happened. When Kyrsten Sinema beat Martha McSally in 2018, according to the Fox News exit polls, Donald Trump's approval rating was pretty good in that state. It is not where Joe Biden's is. Nationally, but not in the battleground states. In Ohio, Richard Cordray was, by the way, polls also showed that Richard Cordray was going to win. Mike DeWine was going to lose. The Marist poll we've discussed today, a number of occasions, was the only one in about middle of the summer, real quick, that showed June it was, that showed a lead for Mike DeWine. I believe it was about 3 points. It wasn't that much. But then by September, they were right back to Cordray plus 5. Mike DeWine won that race pretty easily. Not according to the polls. Why? Because Donald Trump was pretty popular still. Sherrod Brown lost it because Jim is just not Sherrod Brown won it because Jim was just not a good candidate. Had Josh Mandel not quit on that race, Josh Mandel would be a U.S. Senator from Ohio right now. Build Back Better would never have passed. The Inflation Reduction Act would never have passed. Mandel would have put up a much bigger fight with some of these nominees that are Lindsey Graham-approved nominees. Think about what could have been stopped if Josh Mandel did not bail from that race, which is why I think he didn't get the nomination this time. Because again, contrary to popular opinion in the media and among all of these so-called forecasters, Republican voters are not stupid. And they remember. This time they were like, sorry, Josh, but your turn was in 18. You left us high and dry. Sherrod Brown won. And now we're in different times, which call for different leaders. Let me say this right now, too, because it's another Senate race. J.D. Vance is going to win. The Washington Post article yesterday was ridiculous. Portman's aide is a Democrat who has hated Donald Trump forever. He might have voted for Rob Portman, his boss. Republican firm. What a load of crap. Those are Democrats interviewing, by the way, they're Democrats pretending to be Republicans, interviewing Democratic voters pretending to be Republicans, all to give you the appearance that Tim Ryan is winning a huge chunk of Republicans. We saw this with Hillary Clinton in 2016, didn't we? We saw the same damn thing in 2020. Yet Donald Trump easily carried the Buckeye State. Easily. Do we have to go back to those polls? You know what? Let's go back to those polls. Let's do it. Ohio, RCP 2020 polls. Let's do it. Just to drive this home. Okay? Wait until you see this. And again, remember, some polls, they're released and everybody mocks them. They get mocked. Everybody says, oh, it's ridiculous. The real pollsters have Biden winning this race. The real ones. Okay? Emerson, all the way back in May, had Trump up by 3. CBS News YouGov had him up by 1 at one point. But then they all moved to a tie. The latest one, Quinnipiac, Biden +5. The New York Times, Biden +1. They also had Biden up in Iowa, by the way, the New York Times. So in Trafalgar, when Robert drops to Trump +4 in the middle of Biden +5s by Fox News. You may remember this one. The Fox News Biden +5. I did an entire episode showing you that at this time, we had just polled. Trump was up by 9. 9. 49-40. The RCP average, because of Rasmussen's +4 and Trafalgar's +5, was Trump +1. Because they had to counter it against 2 back-to-back Quinnipiac polls. I told you at that time, notice the data set. 1186 on 1023 to 1027. Then they put out a 1440 sample size a day later. And they have a Biden +4 to a Biden +5. Just so they can cover their butt to make it out like they showed a tightening race in case Trump actually eked it out. He didn't eke it out. He blew it out. And I said at the time that I'm fairly certain, and I was calling for Quinnipiac to release their data set, I was fairly certain they polled no more than a few 280 more voters roughly. That was it. They smashed them together in this sample to come up with 1440, played with the variables a little bit and got a Biden +4 instead. What I am accusing them of is using a duplicate sample, just simply adding a couple hundred more interviews to their old data set and claiming that it was from 28th to the 1st of November. The 1st of November, ladies and gentlemen, Biden +4. That's a more than 12-point miss. And by the way, the New York Times had Biden up by more at one point as well. I don't know why that's not on here, but they had him up by 4 or 5 or something. And then they mirrored Biden 1. Fox changed theirs to a Trump +3. Oh, good. Thanks, Fox. The truth is this race was not close. How do I know? I pulled it multiple times. For the Epoch Times once, for Robert Barnes and I once, and for the Public Polling Project. Took it off the board after the Trump +9 in September. Went on a 2-hour rant against the Fox poll. What a freaking joke. And this is what everyone's having a knip shit over? Now, right, I'm looking at some of the comments, all the billions and billions and billions for Ukraine, but they can't find 25 billion to build a wall. I know, and some of this stuff is what could cost them some races. I just don't see it costing them all these races. I think Robert is right. I think Laxalt has a lead in Nevada, a small lead, but a lead. When you see Robert drop a Laxalt +2 in a sea of Astro Cortez +5 and 7, you should know what's going on there. I just went through a slew of states in history to tell you, to show you. I will take Roberts. I will take Roberts' result. Since you don't know how to poll working class Hispanics, media, university polls. And at this point, there's plenty of evidence to suggest they know they can, and they're doing it on purpose. Biden +17, Wisconsin. We'll be back after 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Don't go.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you own me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're back inside the numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Maris, the People's Pundit. It's Freewheeling Friday, so we're going to get into question time, okay? Some of these I think I got into a little bit already, but I'm going to go into it more. Look, I'm not going to repeat that schmuck's name, but look, can we address the Minnesota governor's race and the joke of a poll, in quotes, conducted by Survey USA? Look, I just showed you tons of those misses. And especially at this time, right? Cunningham +10 to 13 in North Carolina. Come on. Give me a damn break. In a Republican leading state, they're giving Democrats 10-point plus leads. So what do you think they'll do in a state that is, that leans Democrat, right? I know. The rating thing, I'm not going to address. I'm just not going to do it. And I know somebody over there. He doesn't deal with the polling, though. Very nice guy. Really get along. He doesn't deal with the actual crunching of the numbers for the polls. He deals with the numbers of the firm. So look, also too, does anybody really think Faulkner was at 20-something%? I mean, with the, against Larry Elder? I mean, come on. So, did Blake Masters go soft on abortion, and is that enough to sink him? Actually, the abortion issue is what they're using in Scottsdale and everywhere else. That Mark Kelly spent a ton of money to try to get Republican women, moderate Republican women and independents, not to vote for Masters because they think that he's too strict on abortion, that the restrictions that Masters would support is out of the mainstream. I actually don't believe that's obviously true. Republicans are running on this issue like a bunch of cowards instead of fighting them on it. In 2016, the media and Hillary Clinton tried doing the same thing to Donald Trump because nothing was sticking. And he just turned to her and said, Hillary, you're disgusting. You want to rip babies out of the womb. You're a nasty woman. And that was it. She never brought it up again. That's all you have to do. No, we want to place modest restrictions on abortion that the vast majority of the American public supports, including those who identify as pro-choice people. And they want to rip babies out of the womb, tear them apart, sell their body parts, let their donors sell their body parts, all to support the billion-dollar industry that their donors profit off of. End of story. Believe me. If you went after Democrats on this issue like that, they would drop it in a heartbeat, Dobbs or no Dobbs. Why? Because the images of babies being dissected and sold in pieces is a little disturbing to most Americans. But because they're being quiet, hoping that the issue goes away, they're allowing the Democrats and the media to frame the narrative surrounding abortion. And that narrative has been that Republicans want to take all your abortion rights away, no exceptions. That, of course, is not true for the vast majority of elected Republicans and Republicans running for office. But, the common voter wouldn't know that at this point. That's on them. You cannot run from an issue because it's a bad issue for you. If you're a Democrat, if you have a D after your name, you can do that because the media is going to provide cover for you. The fake fact checkers, like they did for Hillary Clinton, are going to go after that night because they know how powerful of a moment that was for Donald Trump. They're going to go and put up fake fact checks like PolitiFact and USA Today. No, Hillary Clinton does not support abortion up until the point of birth. Yes, she does. Yes, Democrats do. Why? Because, yes, their donors do. Because Planned Parenthood does. What a load. But they dropped it. Seymour, we're going to be polling the state of Wisconsin in the second or third week in September. So either next week or the week after that. And then I will let you know what I think. All right. Wisconsin's tough. Tough state to poll. Tough. We had Biden plus what? 2 in Wisconsin in 2020. We had Trump plus 1 in 2016. We had Biden plus 2. And in fact, I got to tell you, we had Biden plus 2 because we had a D plus 3, I think, or something. D plus 2 or 3. We modeled it wrong. Had we modeled it right, it would have been either just dead even or maybe even slightly leaning to Trump by like a half a point. And I know what most of you are going to say. I get that. Can Lake turn Arizona into a likely red state like DeSantis has done to Florida? Do the demographics allow for that? Well, Kevin, DeSantis didn't do that. Donald Trump did that. Donald Trump did, and people who worked on the ground in Florida long before Ron DeSantis ever was, considered to be a gubernatorial candidate. All right, that had been going on for a long time. And then 2016 on, Donald Trump got all of these naturalized Colombians and Venezuelans to register as Republicans, to become Republicans. He turned a lot of Hispanics in South Florida and Miami-Dade. Now Hispanic Republicans in Miami-Dade now outnumber Hispanic Democrats. All right. The only reason why they carried Miami-Dade in 2020 was because of the white women. Or I would say educated white women. All right, whatever you want to call it, however you want to interpret that. But DeSantis didn't do that. So I will say this: somebody like Kerry Lake would absolutely help. And I'm sorry, I'm just checking on a poll over here. They would help for sure, in doing that, because you're giving them a face to put to the movement, the ideas, and the party. And frankly, Kerry Lake is certainly, even the media thinks she's, and some of these like McCain Republicans think she's too, to the right. The fact is that that's not even really true. Behind closed doors, they'll tell you they were never worried about Kerry Lake being unelectable. They were worried about Kerry Lake getting elected. So it would certainly help. However, since 2020, Kelly Ward, who is the chair of the Arizona Republican Party, has done a phenomenal job reconnecting the base and with new voters. The same thing with Florida. That happened to Florida is happening in Arizona, which is that, yes, some of the more educated white vote is getting Democratic, but the working class vote that's fleeing California is going to Arizona, like working class vote that fled New York went to Florida. And you have this new Republican Party. The Florida Republican Party has been way ahead of the curve on this, but that's because they were Trumpy. North Carolina also is doing a good job. Then you have areas like South Carolina, which are more like Georgia, establishment, old rhino kind of establishments, and they are not doing a good job. So Arizona could absolutely, I know people are always thinking, well, when those, people come from California, they vote blue and they turn the state. That's not true. California is only getting state-to-state migration to them that is of educated professional class voters. The working class who can't afford California anymore think it's a dump now. Maybe they want electricity in the summertime. I know, Gavin, that's a tall order for you, Gavin. So I'm going to Arizona where I can afford to live and, oh, by the way, wash my damn dirty socks. They are not bringing liberal policies with them, or liberal politics with them, or liberal voting preferences with them. They are voting Republican. And you can see it in the generation of exit polls. Were you born in Arizona? Were you not? And in fact, I can show you that. Give me 1 second here. All right, if we go to Lake Governor, trying to go to CD instead of my own because it's just easier. You go to our polling in Arizona, just like, by the way, in 2020, Trump did very well with people who were not third. He was winning first gens and winning third. That second gen was the problem for him, and that is like, you were born in Arizona, two parents who lived in Arizona, obviously lived in Arizona. And then what happened to you is you went to college and you got, what's the word, folks? Indoctrinated with liberal views in college. Okay. And that is the problem. Katie Hobbs in this one is doing better among first generation ones, but not ones who were born in another state, not Arizona. Real weird, right? I know. But third generation or more, Kerry Lake is only, she's winning that by 41-37. And by second generation more, it's 40-38. And then that first is an 8-point margin. So you see the difference there. Not native to the U.S. is Katie Hobbs by a point. A point. So, by the way, when we tighten that likely voter screen more, this was a likely voter poll, but as time goes on, you do try to tighten the screen if it warrants it, and should. And I was looking at Arizona, and if it was a tighter screen with this same data set where we had Lake up by 1, it would actually be Lake up by just about 4, 3.8. So if we were to poll it again, and the data set would look almost exactly like the one looked when we polled it for CD Media, then Lake would actually she would increase her lead, because some of these voters are going to vote in Arizona for the first time in a midterm ever that happened. They're going to go for Kari Lake pretty big. So those who are most likely to do so, even without vote history, they have vote history in another state maybe, but they're in Arizona for the first time. Kari's going to win them pretty handily. So Lake's margin would be bigger. It'd be about 4 points, actually. All right. Do you think Walker's race will hurt his chances with racist Republicans? I don't think I reject that. I think that that's a myth. I know that there obviously is some racism in Georgia. Some, of course, just like there is racism everywhere. But it's certainly not exclusive to the right. And you're going to have some people who vote for Walker because of, like, I'm a virtue signaling Republican. I'm going to vote for Walker because he's black. That will, probably in more cases than not, help him. And I know that's a sad commentary, but a lot of times there are, voters who would otherwise vote Democrat because David Perdue is white, and Warnock was not, right? Or was Ossoff is who he went against, but you know what I mean. Loeffler is a white woman. Warnock's a black man. I'm going to vote for Walker. I'm going to vote for Warnock. But now Walker is also obviously a black candidate. I just don't see that the way the media overblows this, and I reject that. I don't think that's going to prevent Walker from winning the race at all. And in fact, again, guys, you have those like really working class college football lovers, a Heisman Trophy winner, very popular. He's going to win these people pretty big. And as football season really starts to light up, I expect Walker plus like 5 eventually. All right. Can you please release these streams as podcasts? I'd love to listen to them in the car without using my data. We've done that. We've thought about doing that in the past, but I'll consider it again. It's just that there's a lot of visuals in this podcast, and I just didn't know at some point where to do it. Yeah, Laura's looking into it, and at the very least, maybe we'll take an audio playlist on locals or something and put it up there for everybody. All right. Take it we need to find someone besides Josh Mandel to run against Brown in 2024. Maybe not in 2020. That's a good question. In 2024, it may be back to, all right, by that time, Vance would already be in the Senate. They would have a real bulldog in J.D. Vance. And I have a feeling, especially if Masters wins as well, which, by the way, he can. It's a very winnable race. Exactly what we were talking about with us. John's question. Do I agree with Henry Olsen and what Andrew Clavin were saying? I think it was almost 70% in the Senate race who were undecided, disapproved of the job Joe Biden is doing, and we only had Masters down by 3. He can absolutely make that up, especially, we start to see more parity with spending. Mitch McConnell is using the excuse, Peter Thiel can pick up the tab in Arizona. We only have so much money in the Senate Republican fund, so the Senate leadership fund, so we're going to have to spend it elsewhere. But Peter Thiel, he can help you guys. That's bullcrap. Then why'd you spend so much money in Ohio when you know it's a Trump plus 10 state? Almost 10. He did so because he knew he were going to win Ohio anyway. So he had to make it look like he was helping. Otherwise, he just would not be able to justify these, actions in the face of attacks. But he needs to give to Blake Masters nuts. And to Oz. What % chance do you give for Republicans to get above 53 senators and 240 House members? Maybe like at this point, I give them, like a 60% chance, 70% chance of taking the House, I think it's 90% chance they take the House. So 60 to 70 that they take the Senate. When you're talking about, 53 senators, you're talking about you need to hold Pennsylvania, you need to flip Georgia, you need to flip Nevada, and then you got to have like a sleeper somewhere. I think New Hampshire is a sleeper. It is. Maybe even, by the way, I saw some people, which I'm going to get to some of these questions. Smiley is doing much better than expected. Somebody was right about decision desk not updating in Washington State, which is why initially I thought, Patty Murray was safe. She was good to go. But 52% is not a great result. It means Smiley is only going to lose by maybe like 4 points. If she loses, there could be a surprise there. But what chance do I give for 53 senators? Like ballpark 20, 30. It's, if you go and look at and the reason why I say that is if you go and you look at the history of midterm elections, especially first-term incumbent midterms, even when the House swings considerably, the Senate doesn't always. Because of Donald Trump, he bucked the historical trend, and he actually preserved the Senate majority, and Republicans increased their net gain was 2. You'd have to go back to You'd have to go back to JFK's first-term incumbent midterm, which of course would happen, right, at that point, in order to match a performance like that by that party, the way Trump and Republicans did in 18. And if they would have held on against Kyrsten Sinema in 18, if McSally would have won that race, which she could have, by the way, again, the polls scared everybody. Republicans bailed on her, and nobody spent for her. She was outspent dramatically, and she lost the race, a hair. And that was only because 13 to 15% of Republican women voted for Kyrsten Sinema. And by the way, I meant to give Kelly Ward another shout out. They're doing an excellent job when these people come in of rebranding the Republican Party into something better, fresher, more dynamic. When these people come in, they have absolutely reversed. Under Trump, Democrats were gaining in 2 states, Arizona and Georgia. Under Donald Trump, that happened. But in 2020, you had Kelly Ward come in. She pivoted. She did a lot of work in that party, in the state party, a lot younger Republican Party than it ever was before. And they reversed that. Not only did they arrest the trend of sliding to Democrats, they reversed it. And Arizona began to get more Republican again. I mean, it was slipping all the way to R+2 under Donald Trump. And now we're back to an R+4, R+5 Arizona. Maricopa, huge gains. It's a big deal. She's done fantastic. And by the way, the establishment hates her. So what does that tell you? Bunch of losers. Meghan McCain couldn't get it done. She can cry all she wants about Carrie Lake and Blake Masters. They're generating excitement. All right. Yeah. So, and then on Blake Masters, which was the next question Aston had. Can I talk to him on how to handle that topic? I mean, sure. I imagine he's going to see what I just said. Out of the Republican bench for president after Trump, does Carrie Lake have the best populist instincts out of these prospective candidates? Yes. For those who didn't see it on Twitter it was like a week ago, maybe something. I said, I hate to break everybody's, bubble, pop everybody's DeSantis bubble. But, I know all these people. I've had a chance to discuss them. I've gone through their financials. The real successor to Trump in the MAGA movement isn't even a man. It is a woman. And if Carrie Lake wins, which I do believe she's going to position herself as the real successor to Donald Trump. Look, folks, I'm a Florida guy. I love Ron DeSantis' governing, history. I do. I have said this before. Ron is aggressive. He is. But look at his financials. He has a record of being a member of the House. On some of these issues, he simply hasn't had any spotlight on him that would question his MAGA-ness because governors don't deal with these issues. For instance, if you look at his record in the House, you absolutely could have counted on Ron DeSantis to vote yes to send $50 billion to Ukraine. Now, he can say what he wants now as the governor of Florida, but he's supported financial aid, foreign aid to all sorts of countries. He did. On trade, what was his record on TPP again? Right. Can that change? Sure, it could change. But as of right now, Carrie Lake also does her own thing. Even though she's super Trumpy, she does her own thing. Like DeSantis appears to be, and Laura, you know this is true. He took like body language lessons or something, and he's like mimicking Trump's mannerisms, which are good, it's smart, but it's not his own. Whereas Carrie Lake has her own mannerisms. She's, yes, like everyone calls her the female Donald Trump, as I told her when I spoke with her. But she's not. She's her own thing. She's MAGA. She is. But she's not, what's the word I'm looking for? A copy. Which is why I think it comes across so much more authentic when you're in person. DeSantis gave very good answers to some tough questions in Naples months ago. He did. But I found, folks, people are like, Carrie Lake was a Democrat. I mean, Carrie Lake thought, like many millions of Republicans, by the way, and she was, even if she was a Democrat at that point, millions of people thought this. It was a good landmark or a good milestone for the country to have elected their first black president. He was young. He was inspirational, or at least he wasn't a campaign trail. He turned out not to be very inspirational as president. But, people, regardless, you can look at his old approval rating, 60s, 68, 65%. You can't do that unless you get a huge chunk of Republicans. And he did. But then it became clear what he was about, and that evaporated. And it resulted in, if you can ever talk to her, or you can listen to some of the stuff she said in interviews, the conversion story is very real. And I found that sometimes the one who converted is more MAGA or more authentic and more red-pilled, whatever you want to call it, than somebody who has been for a while calling themselves a conservative or Republican. And then, Trumpism came along, added that populist tone to the Republican Party. And they were, Democrats a month later. So I find these people who have conversion stories to be the most solid. I really do. I'm telling you. That has been my experience. And then you have people who have been claiming to be, conservative champions for years, turned into liberals overnight. All right. So let's do this real quick. Again, do like Laura and I do. Food shortages could be coming in the U.S. Look at the poll, by the way. Look at the poll. What did people cite? Food and groceries. Drought, inflation, and even, obviously, new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important than ever. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriot Survival Food Kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years, super survival food. Hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the US of A. The kits are compact, sturdy, water-resistant, light-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP. 4patriots.com/TPP for the People's Pundit. Link is in the description to get your 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities to support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpile today. And again, Laura and I do have and continuing to do so. All right, you got kids, by the way. Great stuff for kids in that survival kit. I'm telling you, one of the worst things a parent has to ever think of is a crisis with children. You better make sure that what you have tucked away is going to pique their interest. You'd be surprised how many people in survival situations, children too, they do it quite a bit. They're not used to something. They'll die before they eat like a snake or something, right? I'm serious. So some of the survival foods, gross. It's not for patriots. Let's be real. Some of it is not good. It does not taste good. MREs are good, but they don't last as long. They really don't. And we're talking about meals. The kids, your spouse, your loved ones, whoever you're trying to look out for, you'll serve this up and they'll never know the difference between a meal you brought, the ingredients from the grocery store or a 4 Patriots meal. Not to go on and on about these people, but I'm telling you, it's delicious. Delicious. And with me, one of the things for me is the kids. It really is. Worst possible scenario is if you're in this situation, it's already very uncomfortable, crummy situation, and one of your kids is like, Dad, I'm simply not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. Where's my chicken nuggets or something? Where's my Tyson chicken nuggets? The stews are great. We're a big stew eating family. The stews are great. We're an Alfredo eating family. Great. Mac and cheese. Great. They got it. I'm telling you. Coffee drinkers. No problem. Kids like cocoa. Got you. And those 10 free gifts are fantastic. That all of them are useful. All right. Let me scour for more questions here. Yeah, Nick, do it for the kids. Do it for the kids. 4patriots.com/TPP for the People's Pundit. That's a good question. That's a good take too. DeSantis Lake 2028 could definitely happen. Could definitely happen. And it all depends on whether DeSantis decides he wants to commit suicide this cycle. I'm telling you. Trump can't go any further. Let's be real. 2024 to 2028. Whomever he picks for VP better be acceptable to the base, because how could I put this? There is a huge percentage of the Republican base who simply, they want Trump, and that's it. And, that's all. David, what's your favorite lawn care product? Ooh, David, let's talk about this. Of course, it depends what kind of lawn you have. See, I have a hybrid Bermuda. All right. So I'm a huge fan of the Anderson fertilizer products. Even though I'm not, this is not a paid promotion. I'm a huge fan because the pilter, which is the size of the granules, perfect. And I'm about to try their grub control because, DEFCON. I have grubs. And they got to go. And I'm trying their grub. It should be here tomorrow. And it's granular with this tech that this dissolves this product very good. So I'm going to that's a good question, Kimmy. I'm coming back to that. I'm going to go try that out to see if it kills. It's supposed to do something others. I used Spectracide product, David, and it's supposed to kill grubs. It does not. So it killed everything that was on the surface. But these insects lay their eggs within the turf, in the lawn. So then you could have killed everything. And then a week later, there are all these things again. I should have known because beetles were eating up Laura's roses. I should have known we had grubs. They were everywhere. There was nothing we could do to stop them. And I mean a lot. And I was using Spectracide. It just wasn't working. This is supposed to be able to penetrate the organic matter in the turf. It kills above and gets below, which is right now. Anything for grubs in October, it's a waste of time. But right now, they're back up to the surface again. You really should be doing it in the spring, April. But I didn't get them. I didn't get the larvae, I guess. Sucks, David, because once you miss it, it means I got to try to kill what's there now and then not forget to do it again in the spring. What's Rich's opinion on a robust GOP primary for 2024? The only ones I see benefiting are campaign consultants and staff. And Kimmy, this is why you're going to see idiots who have no future delude themselves into running, like Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence. They have consultants. Fantastic article on the Washington Examiner about what the hell happened to Mike Pence. Consultants is what happened to Mike Pence. They're very good at filling your ear and telling you lies. And they don't care. They know there's going to be a donor class that's going to give something to Pompeo, to Haley, to Pence, all these people. They don't care because they're going to make money over there, hand over foot. Poll, sure, $20,000. Mailer, absolutely, I'll do it, $45,000. By the way, my retainer fee for the month, $8,000. Social media boosting, we got you, $5,000. Media placement, sure, I'll make some calls. $120,000. It only benefits these people. They don't give a damn. They know who is the better candidate. By that, I mean who is the only one proven ability to win the Rust Belt. But they're not going to make any money off of it. Got to pay those vendors, David. That's right, man. Got to pay those vendors. The grift must continue. It must continue. This is how they make a living. Yeah. Yeah, Lake did support Obama the first time. Like about 20% of the Republican Party did, by the way. And yet, like I said, some of these conversion stories, those people tend to end up being. Look at Trump himself. Trump supported Democrats. He hedged like a businessman hedges. He had a lot of Democratic views for most of his, career as a celebrity. Yet he converted. And nobody is more Trumpy than Trump. So he's a perfect example. Mark Short is 80s Aaron. That is who I'm talking about. Excellent piece in the Washington Examiner, citing people in the White House, especially a certain General Kellogg. Not exactly a crackpot. He's a serious man, respected by all. Mark Short, who I remember, who was the White House, basically, he was like the legislative liaison to the media, but not just to the media, to Capitol Hill. I mean, you're Trump, and your liaison to Capitol Hill for legislation is Mark Short, who's a rhino. So obviously there's something there. And that's how he ended up, being duped into signing the omnibus bill and then never getting money for the wall after that. He had to move stuff around himself using the Office of Management and Budget. So, yeah. And basically, too, Mark Short convinced Mike Pence not to make good on his promise about fighting the electors in the Senate. Folks, Jack Posobiec found the clip I'm talking about and put it up. Laura, this is why she hates Mike Pence. We were 10 feet away. The man, I was right out of his lips, right at him. The man told everybody at that event in Tampa that they were going to fight tooth and nail every single one of the electors from states that they believed there was the F word. He lied to them. And at the very last minute, he lied. Exactly. He's a liar. And by the way, you should have seen those kids. They believed him. Laura believed him, actually. And Laura's usually a better judge of character than I am. As most women are, men. I hate to tell you, women have better intuition. They do. But that time, I was like, I don't know what you're clapping for. These kids, poor kids. Guy, sorry. I knew it when he was saying it. But, it happened. It happened. He lied to those poor kids. They believed it. And Jack Posobiec put it up. We will fight them.
That silver skunk was a lying guy.
There she is. I knew she was coming. I knew she was
He
coming in.
lied to those children. He lied to my face. I'll never.
He lied to
forgive him.
you, to your face, right?
Mhm.
He's a friggin' liar. He's disgusting. He's a lying piece of
I swear they have
garbage.
something on him.
They do. They probably found him in a hotel room or something. Who knows? God forgive me. I don't know. But apparently Mark Short, according to General Kellogg, Mark Short convinced him that this is the end of the line for Trump. And if you go down this road with him, it'll be the end of the line for you too. Right now, you could basically stab Donald Trump in the back, and then you be the standard bearer from now on. You're the vice president.
And that is what I call a coward.
That is a coward. All right, let's pull this up bigger. Here's that poll from Rasmussen. Sorry, locals. Usually I give you guys the before they publish it. Anything that I get ahead of time, they're cool with, as long as you respect the no share rule. So I can put it up on locals, no problem, before it's published. But only because people have been respecting the no share rule, we need to make sure that continues. All right, interesting results this week. Females now are actually R+2, but the lead shrunk a point. Why is that? And it shrunk from Republican +5 to Republican +4 because men are only Republican +6. Last week, men were Republican double digits, and women were, I think, D+2 or D+1, maybe close to even. Excuse me, which we see as well. 18 to 39 came home a little bit more for Democrats. You can see that, or at least that 18 to 29 group came home. The rest, 30 to 39, is not that Democratic right now. It's only a few points. 40 to 64, which we have found 45 to 64 being the most Republican demographic so far, generally speaking. The 65 plus is 55-38 in Rasmussen's. If that is the case, we saw Trump do better with some seniors than other Republican candidates and generic Republicans. In 2020, the senior vote did not go as heavy for Republicans as it had in the past. That was for two reasons. One, COVID. What do I mean by that? Both opinions about how COVID was handled because of a corrupt media. And then also, too, it killed a lot of Trump voters. I'll be honest with you guys. It did. It did. So you had some states where that obviously had an impact. Right? But, we're not talking about millions upon millions upon millions of people. The general damage was done by the media lying about how Donald Trump was, well, it's you. It's your neck on the line. If you're being told by the media that Donald Trump was reckless and careless and blah, 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 then it's your life is in danger. So you'll literally vote for Joe Biden because you think he's going to do better to handle the COVID pandemic. But of course, that was always a lie. It was one of the biggest scams of the entire election season in 2020. Joe Biden is an imbecile. It was thrown off the H1N1 task force when Barack Obama was president because he scared the hell out of people and caused panic during the swine flu pandemic. And by the way, I know full hand how much he botched that response because there weren't enough beds at my own VA. I went there for something rudimentary. Got stuck in a room with a bunch of positive swine flu patients. Because my son was a baby, I was stuck. They could not let me leave. Sure as hell enough, I caught the swine flu. Which I know and I understand. COVID targets a certain group of people, and for that, especially the Alpha variant, it was dangerous. But I have had both COVID and the swine flu, and at that time, how old was I? 27? The swine flu was worse for me. My fever was 104 something. I was freaking hallucinating. I thought it was a wrap for a minute there. By the way, talking about not enough testing. They didn't give me a test till 24 hours after exhibiting symptoms. They didn't have them. Between that and not enough Tamiflu, they were trying to get them from Jacksonville. Remember that, Laura? I was 2 days late for treatment for Tamiflu. There was like nothing they could do until it came but give me Tylenol and try to bring the fever down, which was dangerously high. Nice reaction, right? Real competent. A freaking joke. Whites, 50 to 39. I would venture to say that's an overrepresentation of the black vote. What do we have? We have the generic ballot. Where are you? Where are you? Where's my generic ballot? That's Pennsylvania. That's Arizona. Here we go. My generic ballot with race. I never regrouped race. I told you guys I was going to. I regrouped party, but I didn't do race. We actually do have Republicans at 15% of the black vote, which is absolutely doable. Absolutely. Our Hispanic sample was like real liberal. I really don't take that, which is another reason why, again, I said the cost has to go up. Paneling is, online targeting, and especially in a midterm, it's just not the right way to go. Fully 80-20 should be SMS to online. And I can guarantee it, that if it was instead of 80-20 the other way, Hispanics would have been closer because they're closer on the phone. Much closer. All right. I think that's generally it. I mean, there's not much else we could, look for. I saw somebody a question about I got the H1N1 shot and the reaction was awful. Jonathan says, yeah, I didn't. It was already like too late. By the time I got it, it was just too late anyway. I'm trying to look through some stuff. But will Republicans nominate Trump even with indictments? You know what? I have learned never to underestimate Donald Trump's ability to be the Teflon Don. Never. I think at this point, most Republican voters are expecting him to, to basically be indicted. So it's like, it wouldn't be this real shock. Obama did it's a really good back and forth conversation about how Trump got red pilled. I mean, on the issue of abortion, if you haven't heard it, you should listen to him tell the story about how he became pro-life. It's a pretty powerful story. And then 2, do you remember when he was at the White House dinner and Obama roasted him real bad? And do you remember that, guys? He had already been like, he had been saying for many years that the trade deals are killing America. You can find video of that going back to Oprah and beyond. I mean, he always was America first on trade, right? And Elle knows it. But when Obama roasted him, he was like, these elitist pieces of you-know-what. Here we have a country in deep trouble, and this guy is like roasting what everybody knew to be his like idol. And he was. Obama used to idolize Donald Trump, or at least he wanted to mimic him. He was like jealous of Trump being a rich, successful alpha male. Again, that book, I keep forgetting the name of that book, but it's huge book. But it was written by a guy after, of course, after, of course, Obama's presidency. So I remember in 2015, he gave a speech at CPAC, and he said, we cannot have another Obama, another Bush, another Clinton. The country can't take it. It has to be somebody who's independent, who can stick up for the American worker, or we're finished. And I saw that. I heard it. And I said, this is the headline. We're running with this story. Get me a story. It was when I was the editor of PBD. And we ran it. We shared it on social media. He saw it. He retweeted it, which blew our site up, by the way. And that told me that I was right about what he was trying to convey. So I think he knew it was there, but then this like fundamental unseriousness from our elites. We deserve more. The country is in deep trouble. We deserve serious leaders and people who are not bought off. And his point was, I don't have to owe anybody anything. I can spend some money to be elected president, and I don't owe anybody crap but you. And back then, that's the old Trump, the 16 Trump, which I heard in Pennsylvania the other day. That was the 16 Donald Trump. He looked forward and he bashed people for the wrongs of the past. But he still had a forward-looking message. You know, some of these articles that are like, Trump is always talking about election fraud, and it's always yesterday. He, number one, normally does not always do that when he gives speeches. But this time, this rally in Pennsylvania, that was a new Trump. And he's going to run all over the place, from Georgia to Arizona. Somebody had asked, too, should he go to Washington? He's more popular than Joe Biden in the state of Washington right now. That's like multiple polls have shown that Joe Biden's more negative in Washington state than Donald Trump is. That said, he's still not really beloved. You could do it to gin turnout, but there may be some risk of him turning off some people in, like, you know, Seattle or something, you know, outside the surrounding area. But you take him to like Washington 3 and Washington 4, that's a different story. You want to gin up turnout for him and Joe. By the way, no, I do not believe the poll that Herrera Butler put out showing or beating Joe Kent. Joe Kent is going to win that race. Get over this crap. Yeah. Let's see. That's what it will be, Darkless Flame Media. That's exactly what it's going to be. Believe me, whether or not his public statements seem to reflect it, he has quite a bit. How does the race affect for you? Look, abortion has hurt people like Tudor Dixon and John Gibbs, but I'm telling you, in the end, if this turns out to be a Republican year, Gibbs is going to win. He's going to win. To move that from toss-up or even leans R all the way to leans D, because John Gibbs won and Peter Mayer didn't, is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Republican electorate. First of all, in our polling, John Gibbs did better than Peter Mayer among independents. Has that held since I polled for him, since abortion and everything? I don't know. But I will tell you this. There was no way Trump independents and Trump Republican base voters were going to vote for Peter Mayer. Among Republicans alone, 4 in 10 told us they would never vote for him, and they don't care about the majority enough to vote for him. They will let him lose and then get somebody else after. Yeah, I'm more inclined, when it comes to Illinois, I'm more inclined to believe Fabrizio, even though it was technically an internal poll. But Fabrizio only had Bailey down by like 7. The 11s and 15s in a Republican year for a gubernatorial election, I just don't buy. I've heard this with Bailey before, and in the end, he actually did better in those suburbs than anyone ever thought he could. So, okay, it's 156. Let's see if I can get. There's one more, Laura. Cool. How do you see the proposal to enshrine abortion in the state constitution getting on the ballot affecting Michigan? You know, it could. It didn't really affect other races in Kansas, but it could. Democrats are going to run on deception when it comes to that issue, and that could backfire in Michigan. You know, when Republicans have been aggressive on this issue, and it was on the ballot, it did nothing but draw value voters out. George W. Bush, 2004. That's when the country was like almost 20 points pro-choice. That is not the case anymore. It's about even. In 2016, Trump had no problem making it a big deal. Listen, if you elect me, I'm going to appoint judges who are absolutely going to get rid of Roe v. Wade. What? That didn't generate any enthusiasm because Trump neutralized all of them on that issue. They tried. When he said that, I'm good. Well, yes, if I'm elected president, Roe v. Wade is just necessarily gone. It's going to happen because I'm going to appoint people who are going to vote to overturn it. They seized that immediately and tried to run it. But Trump killed it, man. He stepped on it with one response. And it was such a damaging response to Hillary Clinton and for all Democrats that they gave up talking about it. So in the end, honestly, Hyperion, it could be actually a net gain in that case for Republicans. But they got to fight on it. They got to fight on it. I'm going to leave you guys with this because of the 4 Patriots thing again. Somebody's comment, really, really interesting. I'll tell you what, so basically, where is that, Laura? Where did I put it? Real Queen B, right, says, as a crop pollinator, I can tell you food shortages are coming. And that's what I've heard from people from the industry. They're not going to be able to keep up with demand, and there already is like a shortage. It's just that I'm talking about shortages in the, to the extent that people are not able to buy staple goods, things that they normally do. All right, but there it is right there. 4 Patriots, links in the description. We're about out of time. Locals, when they're done here, I really wanted to do a live stream. I have something I wanted to do with you guys, which I can, do with you and not YouTube. And even Rumble for that matter. Might as well just be on locals. When they're done, we are going to do that. So keep an eye out for it. I wanted to do it yesterday, and I was not able to. But I think we will soon. Because obviously they're going to wrap for the weekend and then be back Monday. So I have to fit it in the weekend. All right. So with that, of course, follow me on Truth and Getter, which is at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. Follow us on Rumble, People's Pundit channel on Rumble and on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, don't forget, after you subscribe, hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But Rumble, definitely. Check out Rumble because you never know with YouTube. The best place to follow me is on Locals right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, everyone, have a happy weekend, safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves, but be safe about it. And we will see you soon. As always, folks, thanks for watching. We appreciate all love and all the support. Deuces.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow